This is America in the Morning from Westwood One. Good morning, I'm John Trout. It's Tuesday, April 9th, 2024. Here's what's coming up on America in the Morning.
Yesterday's total eclipse totally lived up to the hype.
Shocking. I like down my spine.
I'm Jim Roope.
Donald Trump makes a statement on abortion, but did he clarify his position?
The law of the state.
I'm John Stolnis.
A new proposal by the Biden administration surrounding student loan debt. I'm Clayton Neville.
UConn and Purdue battle it out. Game highlights from the NCAA men's basketball matchup.
On Wall Street, markets are coming off a flat day for stocks. Gold hit another record high. I'm Jessica Ettinger.
Former President Donald Trump's request to delay his hush money trial in New York has been rejected. I'm Ed Donahue.
The Justice Department is ripping a GOP threat to hold Attorney General Merrick Garland in contempt. Sagar Meghani, Washington.
All ahead on America in the Morning. Millions of people were treated to a rare experience as the moon moved across the sun in Monday's eclipse. As Jim Roope reports, the total eclipse totally lived up to the hype.
That's the sound of every crowd within the 115-mile-wide so-called path of totality at the moment the sun becomes totally covered by the moon. Now, those who were in one of the 15 U.S. states where the eclipse was total were totally in awe, including space veterans like William Frederick Fisher and his wife, Dr. Anna Lee Fisher, the parents of CNN reporter Kristen Fisher. Her parents flew in the space shuttle. They saw the Earth from space, and they tell her during CNN's coverage that seeing this space event from Earth is just as awe-inspiring.
Amazing. I have no words. It was much more dramatic than I thought it would be.
I'm crying. It brings tears to your eyes. It really does. Yeah, beautiful.
William even got a little caught up in it.
Oh! Whoa!
Even scientists get emotional. University of Rochester professor of astrophysics Dr. Adam Frank tells CNN, something like this makes you understand we're all part of something much bigger.
It shows, there's no red states or blue states. There's no, different nations under the shadow of the moon. We're just human beings, and we emerged on this planet and we have this capacity to feel wonder and awe.
Even for those of us who were in the, what I will call, path of partiality. Here in Los Angeles, we saw about half the sun covered by the moon, but still, for those gathered at the Griffith Observatory.
It's nice. It's like a half moon.
I think Mother Nature's doing a beautiful job sharing a great day.
It's cool. Awesome.
Even visitors are taking it as a bonus, sort of a tourist twofer.
We also wanted to see the Hollywood sign, and then it just was a perfect opportunity to see the partial solar eclipse and the Hollywood sign.
If somehow you missed this one, the next total solar eclipse will be visible again from the contiguous United States in 2044, a mere 20 years. I'm Jim Roope.
With abortion a major topic in the upcoming election, former President Donald Trump sought to clarify his position, but instead drew criticism from both sides of the issue. John Stolnis has the story from Washington.
My view is now that we have abortion where everybody wanted it from a legal standpoint, the states will determine by vote or legislation or perhaps both, and whatever they decide must be the law of the land. In this case, the law of the state.
In a recorded statement released on Truth Social, Trump essentially calls for the status quo to continue regarding abortion rights, allowing states to chart their own courses.
At the end of the day, this is all about the will of the people. You must follow your heart or, in many cases, your religion or your faith.
The presumptive Republican nominee for president advocates exceptions for rape, incest, and the life of the mother, and erroneously repeated claims Democrats support abortion beyond the 9th month. He did not say whether he would support a national ban on abortion should one come across his desk if elected to another term in the Oval Office, a fact not lost on the nation's preeminent pro-life group, Susan B. Anthony Pro-Life America. In a statement, President Marjorie Dannenfelser said, quote, "We are deeply disappointed in President Trump's position. Unborn children and their mothers deserve national protections and national advocacy from the brutality of the abortion industry. Kristen Hawkins with Students for Life, however, staking out a different position on the Christian Broadcasting Network.
I actually don't think it's cause for concern. I was actually more concerned that the president was going to call for a national 15 or 16-week divisive late-term abortion ban, which would have said that he was okay with abortions 94% of the time.
Despite his statement, Vice President Kamala Harris believes Trump does want to end abortion rights in America.
Let's all be very clear. If he were to be put back in a position where he could sign off on a law, he would sign off on a national abortion ban.
A war of words between Trump and Republican ally Senator Lindsey Graham after Graham said he respectfully disagreed with Trump's position. On Truth Social, Trump posting 5 times yesterday saying, quote, "I blame myself for Lindsey Graham because the only reason he won in South Carolina is because I endorsed him." I'm John Stolnis.
Biden's new stab at student debt relief. When America in the Morning continues after these messages. Welcome back. This is America in the Morning. Severe weather yesterday, and for that same area, it's round 2 today. Here's AccuWeather.com meteorologist Brian Thompson.
We had some severe weather yesterday across parts of Texas, and we'll have the threat again today. And the threat today will extend a little farther east into portions of Louisiana, western parts of Mississippi, and southern Arkansas as well. So the main threat for severe weather will be from around Dallas, Houston, even back towards San Antonio, eastward through much of northern parts of Louisiana, around Shreveport, down to Alexandria. That's kind of where the main threat of severe weather is today. There can be flash flooding, hail, isolated tornadoes, certainly damaging winds with some of these storms as they move on through. Now, north and east of this area, there will be rain and some isolated thunderstorms through the Tennessee Valley and eventually into the mid-Atlantic states, so toward Baltimore and D.C., where it's going to be a warm day today. High temperatures will go well into the 70s, and really we'll see a warm day through Pennsylvania, much of western New England and upstate New York, and down to New York City looking pretty warm too. And it'll be pretty mild through much of the southeast as well. Pretty dry across Florida, where highs will be in the 80s today. Now back toward the Great Lakes, couple of spotty showers, and there will be some spotty thunderstorms this afternoon, parts of the Ohio Valley, even up toward Detroit, but dry toward Chicago, and really dry through most of the northern plains and much of the upper Midwest as well. And really most of the West is going to be dry as well. We'll have some spotty showers across parts of New Mexico, but most of the Four Corners region dry today, and it looks dry through much of the north as well, though into the northwest, there could be a couple of very spotty showers. Looks dry across California on this Tuesday. And that's the weather across America. In St. Louis today, mostly cloudy, a high near 70. In Washington, D.C., warm with increasing clouds and some rain late, high 79. That's the nation's weather. I'm AccuWeather.com meteorologist Brian Thompson.
Follow us wherever you get your podcasts. Apple, Spotify, Amazon, and YouTube. Just search America in the Morning in your favorite listening app. I'm John Trout. The Biden administration is rolling out another plan aimed at eliminating student debt. Correspondent Clayton Neville reports.
President Biden's student loan forgiveness plan was rejected by the U.S. Supreme Court last year. The justices ultimately ruled the president overstepped his power with that proposal, which would have wiped out $10,000 for borrowers with yearly incomes of up to $125K, plus an additional $10,000 if they received federal Pell Grants for low-income students. The president called the high court's ruling a mistake and spoke about that decision yesterday in Wisconsin.
Tens of millions of people's debt was literally about to get canceled. But then some of my Republican friends and elected officials and special interests sued us, and the Supreme Court blocked us. But that didn't stop us. No, I mean it sincerely. We continue to find alternatives paths to reduce student debt payments.
This as the Biden administration introduces a new plan surrounding student loan debt forgiveness. Same goal, but a different approach. The president's new plan uses the Higher Education Act as legal justification, essentially letting the Secretary of Education waive student loan debt in certain cases. I'm Clayton Neville.
March Madness ended on a high note for the University of Connecticut. The Huskies become the first back-to-back champion in 17 years, beating the Purdue Boilermakers 75-60 in the title game. The final call from Westwood One Sports.
6.9 to go. In it comes to Ethan Morton. He's going to dribble this one out. And the second verse is the same as the first. UConn repeats as national champions.
Tristan Newton led the way for Connecticut with 20 points. 7'4" Zach Edey led Purdue with 37 points and 10 rebounds in the loss. When we return on America in the Morning, Mideast unrest points to higher oil prices. Plus, the party's been canceled at United Airlines. Those stories when we return after these messages. America in the Morning's back. The Business Report is sponsored by Fisher Investments. Fisher Investments is a fiduciary, always putting clients' interests first. Learn more at FisherInvestments.com. Here's CNBC's Jessica Ettinger with Tuesday Business.
Wall Street opens this morning after a flat day for the major averages yesterday. Investors are waiting for some new economic data, especially that fresh read on inflation that comes tomorrow morning.
We really are waiting and seeing. I mean, sometimes we say we're waiting and seeing. We genuinely are for the inflation numbers. By the way, we haven't made a new high in a week and a half. That's the longest stretch since January when we first made it.
Oh, the nerve of this market.
Exactly. That's the point. It's kept to such high standards.
Yeah. CNBC's Mike Santoli with Scott Wapner. Gold hit its 15th record high of the year yesterday. Silver's at its highest in nearly 3 years. Bitcoin briefly crossed back above $72,000 before pulling back. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen is done with her week in China, and she says the U.S. is ready to sanction Chinese banks if they aid Russia's war machine. Republicans set to fight the Biden administration as the president tries for a second time to enact sweeping loan forgiveness. 2/3 of borrowers owe more in interest than their original loan amounts.
The White House announcing a new student debt relief program that aims to provide relief for millions of borrowers. If finalized, the proposal would mostly affect those with so-called runaway interest or balances that ballooned due to unpaid interest, as well as borrowers who have been paying down loans for 20 or more years.
CNBC's Deirdre Bosa. Investors are watching the price of oil.
Geopolitical concerns, which have not been getting better, they've been getting worse. There's obviously increasing risk of a direct confrontation between Israel and Iran. And if that were to happen, then the price of oil could very rapidly get up to $100 a barrel.
Yardeni Research's Ed Yardeni on CNBC. Oil pulled back yesterday.
Investor Day at United Airlines postponed. What's the backstory?
Well, they tell CNBC it just doesn't make sense right now.
United Airlines postponing its investor day that was scheduled for early May. That comes amid an FAA review of United's compliance with safety regulations after a series of incidents there. United said it would simply send the wrong message to our team to have an exciting investor day focused primarily on financial results. Among the incidents in the last 2 months, a plane landed in Oregon with a missing external panel, a plane rolled off the Houston runway into the grass, and a flight had to be diverted after losing a tire during takeoff from San Francisco. All of those incidents occurred on Boeing planes, but of course, people are pointing to maintenance for some of those issues too.
CNBC's Becky Quick. On today's watch list, we're going to get earnings from cannabis company Tilray. Boeing will release its orders and deliveries numbers for the first quarter. Conan O'Brien returns to The Tonight Show tonight as a guest, 14 years after he left as the host.
Well, that should be entertaining. CNBC's Jessica Ettinger. When we return on America in the Morning, GOP ramps up efforts in Biden classified documents case after these messages. We're back on America in the Morning. An appeals judge has turned down a request from Donald Trump in his hush money case, saying no to any further delay. Correspondent Ed Donahue reports the former president also sued the judge in the case.
Jury selection is supposed to start next week. Trump's lawyers wanted the trial postponed while they attempt a change of venue outside of heavily Democratic Manhattan. Trump also wants an appeals court to reverse his gag order in the case. A ruling on that will happen later.
This is a case that could have been brought 3.5 years ago. And now they're fighting over days because they want to try and do it during the election. This is election interference. That's all it is. Election interference.
Trump had suggested on social media the trial should be moved to Staten Island, the only New York City borough he won in 2016 and 2020. The former president is accused of falsifying his company's records to hide the nature of payments to his former lawyer and fixer, Michael Cohen, who helped him bury negative stories during his 2016 campaign. I'm Ed Donahue.
The Justice Department is blasting a Republican effort to hold Attorney General Merrick Garland in contempt over his handling of the Biden classified documents case. Washington correspondent Sagar Meghani reports.
Garland has refused to turn over unredacted materials related to the special counsel probe into the president's handling of documents. The AP has obtained a letter in which the Justice Department rejects a GOP demand that the agency hand over full audio of the counsel's interviews with the president and his ghostwriter, saying it's already complied with subpoenas issued in February. That potentially sets up a scenario in which the president would have to exert executive privilege to stop the release. It's been a dozen years since a successful bid to hold an attorney general in contempt. Sagar Meghani, Washington.
America in the Morning for Tuesday, April 9th, 2024 is produced by Jeff McKay. Senior producer Kevin Delaney. I'm John Trout. This is Westwood One. This is America in the Morning from Westwood One. I'm John Trout. Coming up this half hour.
For many Americans, it certainly was a sight to see, with those protective glasses, of course. I'm Clayton Neville.
God told her to shoot at people because of the eclipse. Reaction to the latest Vatican announcement. And the seemingly never-ending rise of gasoline prices.
A shooting inside a law office in Las Vegas leaves 3 dead. I'm Pamela Furr.
Crews are starting to remove containers that fell as a result of the Baltimore Key Bridge collapse. Hi, up in Juwanee, Washington.
A Boeing 737 operated by Southwest Airlines lost an engine cover shortly after takeoff. I'm Julie Walker.
Country music star Morgan Wallen was arrested on Monday. I'm Kevin Carr.
Back after these messages. This is America in the Morning. Welcome back. It's going to feel like spring and even a touch of summer for some today with the national forecast. Here's AccuWeather.com meteorologist Brian Thompson.
It's going to be one of the warmest days we've seen so far this season across much of the mid-Atlantic today, extending even into portions of western New England, where highs in many areas will reach the 70s this afternoon, some places even up near 80 degrees. The exception will be along the New England coast from Boston up toward the seacoast of New Hampshire and into Maine, where temperatures will largely be in the 50s due to an onshore flow with the cooler water sitting offshore. And the other place we're looking at some heat today is across South Texas in the Rio Grande Valley. Temperatures will get well into the 90s. Some places could even get up near 100 degrees. But just north of there, we're watching for the potential for severe weather across much of central and eastern Texas, extending into much of Louisiana, southern Arkansas, western parts of Mississippi as well. The potential for some flash flooding, damaging winds, hail, even some isolated tornadoes. There will be some rain up through Little Rock, even some isolated thunderstorms. There can be some rain up through Nashville and through much of the Tennessee Valley, and then into southern parts of the mid-Atlantic, even Baltimore and D.C., where it's going to be pretty warm today. We'll start off with sunshine. There can be some rain arriving by day's end. But farther south through southern Georgia, along the Carolina coast and into Florida, looks mainly dry today. Just some spotty showers across the Great Lakes, maybe a stray thunderstorm toward Detroit. But we do expect largely dry weather through the upper Midwest and into the northern plains. Really much of the west overall looking pretty dry today. There will be some showers across New Mexico, and there can be a couple of showers and even some mountain snow showers in the Pacific Northwest, but mainly dry from southern Oregon down through much of California today. That's the nation's weather. I'm AccuWeather.com meteorologist Brian Thompson.
Follow us wherever you get your podcasts, Apple, Spotify, Amazon, and YouTube. Just search America in the Morning in your favorite listening app. I'm John Trout. For millions of Americans, yesterday's solar eclipse was one for the ages. Correspondent Clayton Neville is in Dallas, the largest American city that sat in the path of totality.
Most Americans saw at least a partial eclipse, and more than 31 million who live in the path of totality experienced exactly that, a total eclipse of the sun. Plenty more traveled into the path for the unique event that was breathtaking for even the youngest of us.
Dark! Oh.
In cities like Cleveland and Dallas, crowds gathered to watch together.
It was awesome.
What did it feel like?
It felt like I was looking at a black hole.
This couple flew to Texas from Northern California for the eclipse, which they said lived up to the hype.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, it did. It was actually better than the hype, and it was great to be with a big crowd and hear just sort of everyone at once have this sort of emotional reaction to it. It was great, yeah.
It was a sight many hadn't seen before.
Yeah, so total eclipses actually happen once every 2 years on average. Okay. But the next one, for example, is going to be in Iceland and Greenland. So if you have the energy to travel to it, you can, but it's a little harder to get to. So yeah, the next one in the U.S. is about 20 years from now.
Dr. Kyle Krimmer with Carnegie says for many, it really is a once-in-a-lifetime experience.
For example, the last one in Dallas was 150 years ago, and the next one will be in 300 years. So if you're just staying in Dallas, this is definitely a once-in-a-lifetime chance.
For others, it wasn't their first, some making a point to travel from eclipse to eclipse. And while it was a big day for spectators, it was a monumental event for researchers. Astronomer Joy Chavez says a lot can be learned from an eclipse.
A solar eclipse is a wonderful time to study a part of the sun that you don't normally see. It's called the corona, which means crown. And so it's this outer atmosphere, this very thin layer of gas that's around the sun, but it's very faint, and you only see it for those few minutes that the moon is blocking the sun.
Discoveries dating back to helium, which was discovered during an eclipse. The next one in America, again slated decades down the road in 2044, when it's expected to be seen from coast to coast. I'm Clayton Neville.
While millions of people across the nation were looking to the skies for the solar festivities, police had to deal with a woman who said that God told her to shoot people because of the eclipse. Lisa Dwyer reports.
The Florida Highway Patrol says a woman who said she was going on a God-directed shooting spree because of the solar eclipse shot 2 drivers on the highway. Authorities say the 22-year-old Georgia woman checked out of a Florida hotel, then started driving west on Interstate 10. She fired into a passing car several times, spraying auto glass and grazing the driver in the arm. She then fired at a second vehicle, hitting the driver in the neck. That driver was treated at a hospital. Troopers finally stopped her and found an AR-15 rifle and a 9mm handgun in her car. She has been arrested and charged with attempted murder. I'm Lisa Dwyer.
Visitors to Vatican City react after the church releases the document Infinite Dignity involving gender theory. Correspondent Charles de Ledesma reports.
The Vatican's Doctrine Office has issued Infinite Dignity. In its most eagerly anticipated section, the Church repeats its rejection of gender theory, or the idea that one's gender can be changed. Tourist Lynn Price, a schoolteacher visiting St. Peter's Square from the UK, doesn't agree with the Vatican's views.
I do feel in an ever-changing world, any kind of religion that has a voice needs to move with the times of the people and the emotions of the people and the way things are going. I think that anything that is dictated as no or wrong sets up trouble.
While Leandra Hart from Germany thinks gender's a construct anyway.
I think that gender roles are made up by society over years and years and years. And I think that, that the Vatican is sort of like male-dominated is also very sexist theme.
Infinite Dignity states that God created man and woman as biologically different, separate beings, and urges not to tinker with that plan or try to make oneself God. I'm Charles de Ledesma.
As ceasefire talks led by the United States, Qatar, and Egypt continue, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is escalating his pledge to move the Gaza offensive against Hamas into Rafah. Washington correspondent Sagar Magani reports.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has stepped up his pledge to invade a southern Gaza city, despite international alarm about the fate of the area's civilians. In a video statement, Netanyahu says it's vital to move into Rafah, which Israel says is Hamas's last Gaza stronghold. saying the offensive will happen and there is a date. He did not elaborate.
We have consistently made clear that we don't support a major ground operation in Rafah. I would also add that we don't see any signs that such a major ground operation is imminent.
White House National Security spokesman John Kirby says the U.S. remains against a major ground operation in Rafah, where some 1.4 million Palestinian civilians are sheltering.
We're still looking to have a conversation with the Israelis about Rafah here in coming days, hopefully sometime next week. And the Israelis have assured us that there will be no operations in and around Rafah until we have had a chance to talk to them at greater length about the viable options and alternatives to a major ground op.
He says Israel has assured Washington it will hold off.
Hopefully sometime next week.
Sagar Magani, Washington.
Seems gasoline prices are rising faster than the pump's digital readout when we're filling up. Rita Foley has a report next. And men's NCAA basketball highlights with Robert Workman. Those items and more. America in the Morning, back after these messages. I'm John Trout. Welcome back. This is America in the Morning. 2 people are dead along with the shooter inside a Las Vegas law office. Correspondent Pamela Furr has details.
It initially went out as an active shooter call, but Las Vegas police quickly learned it was allegedly some sort of a domestic violence dispute over a deposition regarding custody. Now, it is a bit complicated, but sources are saying a 70-year-old lawyer shot his former daughter-in-law as well as a fellow attorney during a deposition at Prince Law Group Monday morning. The shooter was representing his own son, and the other lawyer was representing his own wife, who was the former daughter-in-law of the alleged shooter, who police say turned the gun on himself. Now, hundreds of people had to be evacuated from the large office building. Las Vegas Sheriff Kevin McMahill.
I just want to assure the community now that we believe the suspect is deceased. As you can imagine, we have a 5 or 6 story building. We have people that are hunkered down. We're going door by door and making sure that everybody in there is okay.
The investigation continues. I'm Pamela Furr.
Salvage crews began removing containers from the deck of Dolly, the ship which has been trapped in the Patapsco River since it crashed into and collapsed the Francis Scott Key Bridge 2 weeks ago. As correspondent Haya Panjwani reports, cleanup crews have already removed 250 tons of debris from the vital waterway and hope to get a deepwater shipping lane open into the port of Baltimore by the end of the month.
Containers from the deck of the Dolly, the cargo ship that caused the collapse of the Francis Scott Key Bridge in Baltimore, are being removed this week as weather permits. The ship has been trapped under mangled steel in the Patapsco River since it slammed into the bridge on March 26th, killing 6 workers. It's an important step in reopening the shipping lanes. For now, ships have been passing on either side of the wreckage or through temporary channels. The White House said the Army Corps of Engineers hopes to open a limited access channel for barge container ships and some vessels by the end of April. It hopes to restore normal capacity to Baltimore's port by May 31st. Haya Panjwani, Washington.
There were some terrifying moments for passengers on a Southwest Airlines flight that left Denver. As correspondent Julie Walker reports, the cover of an engine ripped off in flight, the latest Boeing jet to experience a mid-air mishap.
A Boeing 737 operated by Southwest Airlines lost an engine cover shortly after takeoff Sunday morning from Denver.
Several passengers and flight attendants heard something loud hit the wing.
The pilot radioing the tower, that audio captured on liveatc.net.
Let's go ahead and declare an emergency for Southwest 3695, and we'd like an immediate return. We got a piece of the engine cowling hanging off, apparently.
No one was injured. The plane returned safely to the airport. The FAA is investigating. It's the second mishap for Southwest and the latest in a string of mechanical issues for Boeing planes over the last several months. I'm Julie Walker.
What's behind the uptick recently in gas prices? Here's the latest from correspondent Rita Foley.
Gas is about $3.60 a gallon today. That's 20 cents higher than a month ago, up about 6 cents just in the past week, says the AAA. If you're driving in California, it's an eye-popping $5.35 a gallon. What's going on? Well, AAA spokesman Andrew Gross blames tension in the Middle East and Ukraine's renewed attacks on Russia's oil infrastructure. They've spiked oil prices recently, he says, and demand is up, says the Energy Information Administration. The AAA points to that and the rising oil prices as the culprits, saying those two things together will likely move pump prices higher. I'm Rita Foley.
A major money laundering trial spanning two hemispheres is getting underway in Panama. Correspondent Norman Hall is following that case.
The trial of 27 people charged in connection with the worldwide Panama Papers money laundering scandal is underway in a Panamanian criminal court. Those on trial include the owners of the Mossack Fonseca law firm that was at the heart of the 2016 massive document leak. The Panama Papers include a collection of 11 million secret financial documents that illustrate how some of the world's richest people, including Russian President Vladimir Putin, hide their money. One accused lawyer, Jürgen Mossack, was present in court.
No soy responsable de tales actos.
Mossack saying he's not guilty of such acts. U.S. authorities say the firm also helped conceal taxes owed to the IRS. I'm Norman Hall.
Tesla has entered into a settlement in a wrongful death lawsuit over its self-driving software that was blamed for the death of an Apple engineer. Here's Chuck Palm with that in today's Tech News.
Elon Musk's Tesla has settled a wrongful death lawsuit brought by the family of an Apple engineer who died when his Tesla crashed in autopilot mode, according to court records. The settlement came just hours before the case was set to go to trial on Monday in California's Santa Clara County Superior Court. Details of the settlement were not disclosed. The family of Walter Huang, a 38-year-old engineer, sued Tesla in 2019, alleging that the Model X SUV he was driving when he died was defective in its design. The lawsuit alleged that the crash was caused by the autopilot software. Several lawsuits have been filed against Tesla related to its autopilot feature, but this is the first time that the company has settled, according to the Washington Post. Attorney Mark Fong, who is representing the Huang family, said in a statement at the time, the Huang family wants to help prevent this tragedy from happening to other drivers using Tesla Autopilot or any semi-autonomous vehicle. Let us know what you think at allthetoptech.tech. I'm Chuck Palm.
America in the Morning continues with Robert Workman and a check of Tuesday sports.
Back-to-back men's basketball titles for the University of Connecticut.
And the second verse is the same as the first. UConn repeats as national champions, the third team to repeat in the last 50 years. 75-60 the final.
The call on Westwood One Sports. A 15-point win over Purdue gives the Huskies an unprecedented 12 consecutive double-digit tournament victories. Zach Edey had 37 for the Boilermakers, but UConn's strategy to let him get his points while shutting down everyone else worked. Tristan Newton had 20 for the Huskies and was named the most outstanding player of the Final Four. Baseball, the Guardians shut out the White Sox 4-0 in their home opener. Tristan McKenzie and the Spuds with a 4-hitter. Yankees blanked the Marlins 7-0. Nestor Cortez and rookie Josh Maciejewski allowed just 2 hits, while Anthony Volpe and Juan Soto both hit 3-run dingers in the 4th inning. Mets rallied past the Braves 8-7. Brandon Nimmo homered twice as Atlanta celebrated the 50th anniversary of Henry Aaron hitting number 715. Reds overpowered the Brewers 10-8. Ellie De La Cruz hit 2 homers, a 450-foot shot from the left side, and an inside-the-park job from the right. Padres erased an 8-0 deficit and tripped the Cubs 9-8. Astros came back to rip the Rangers 10-5. Nationals towered over the Giants 8-1. Wins for the Angels, Blue Jays, Pirates, Phillies, Rockies, and Dodgers. No games in the NBA last night. NHL, the Maple Leafs shaded the Penguins in overtime. Austin Matthews scored his 65th goal. That ties Alex Ovechkin's total 16 years ago as the most goals this century. Also, the Canucks came back to tip the Golden Knights. Soccer tonight, the U.S. women face Canada for the She Believes Cup Championship. That's Tuesday Sports.
Country music star in trouble with the law again when America in the Morning returns after these messages. Welcome back here with America in the Morning. A New Orleans favorite, he croaked his way to a #1 hit. Correspondent Margie Zaraletta reports on the death of musician Clarence "Frogman" Henry.
Clarence "Frogman" Henry had a hit in 1956 with Ain't Got No Home, and he got the name Frogman because he'd Fat Man. Henry had another hit in 1960 with I Don't Know Why, But I Do. I don't know why. Among his claims to fame was opening for the Beatles during their first U.S. tour in 1964. Henry played regularly in New Orleans until 1981 and was a fixture at the New Orleans Jazz and Heritage Festival. He had planned to perform there later this month. I'm Archie Zaraletta.
Country music star Morgan Wallen finds himself in new trouble with the law in Nashville. Kevin Carr has details.
Last night we let the liquor talk.
Turns out last night was not the best time for country music star Morgan Wallen. Early Monday morning, Wallen was arrested in Nashville on the charges of reckless endangerment and disorderly conduct.
Baby, something's telling me this ain't over yet.
Nashville police said that Wallen threw a chair off the rooftop of a 6-story building in the downtown area. TMZ released a video of the event caught by a nearby security camera with the chair appearing to be propelled rather than accidentally getting knocked over the edge. The chair did not hit anybody, but it landed on the street by 2 Nashville police officers who retrieved the object and questioned witnesses before making the arrest. This isn't the first brush with controversy for the 30-year-old country singer. He was arrested in 2020 at a different Nashville bar for disorderly conduct. In 2021, his anti-masking stance got him temporarily booted from an appearance on Saturday Night Live. Also in 2021, he came under fire for a video of him calling his friend the N-word. Wallen's fans don't seem to be deterred by his behavior, though continued legal problems could make his career fluctuate. On Monday, Wallen was released on a $15,000 bond with a court date of May 3rd. I'm Kevin Carr.
America in the Morning for Tuesday, April 9th, 2024 is produced by Jeff McKay, senior producer Kevin Delaney. I'm John Trout. This is Westwood One.